Okay, this is Bart Sharp. We tried to do the 30-second countdown, but we weren't doing a 30-second countdown, much like last week. Welcome to Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Public Radio Network at 107.7 and 105.3, broadcasting out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana. And not only we are broadcasted in that Louisiana Delta, but we also are all around the world, whether that be on UPRN network on the internet, but also on Roku, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker, and other platforms out there. So you can easily tune into us and enjoy the show. My name is Bart Sharp. I haven't mentioned that yet. Really happy to be here. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I have my guest today is Justin James, who recently published a book called Time to Speak. And wow, it's an amazing book that really explores the life of Jesus, James the Just, Mary Magdalene, the Essenes, and all of those wonderful characters at that time, and in a very unique way. So I just love this book in general. So Justin has had an adjustment. We're spending with you all the time, but as I've met you before, you had told me that James the Just is you. It's not just something you channel, but James is a part of your life. And to me, that was kind of something I'd never heard before. And so maybe we could just start the show by you explaining about it's not a relationship, but it's a more of a way of being Justin James and James the Just at the same time. What's that like?
Good morning, Bart. It's nice to talk with you again in a while. So explaining James the Just. James was the brother to Jesus. And I still remember them as our Aramaic names. So Yaakov, Justin, and Yeshua is Jesus. And I was the youngest brother, the next in line after Yeshua. And Yeshua and I know each other outside of this realm. And when he was supposed to come into this realm to do his work, he asked me, as well as many other entities, to help him during this time. And so I incarnated as James, Yaakov, and lived that life with. And during this life now, part of me is James or Yaakov, living this life here.
Wow. And this is quite unusual. So Yaakov, or James the Just, has been with you for lifetimes, and you have awareness of what that's been. Am I understanding you correctly?
Well, I don't come to this realm very often. After the incarnation of James, I was here in the 10th or 11th century. And this is the only other time I've been here.
Yes, and part of what you are somebody that is in many places at once. You live a normal, mundane life in the United States, and you have a rich inner world, let's just say.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal, as I've experienced. I've met Justin before, and your energy, as I'm a sensitive, I feel people's energies. It's like, to me, kind of like different flavors of ice cream. People have different vibrations, different flavors of themselves, and yours is one of the most unique energetic beings I've ever met. um, it's just kind of indescribable, but you're not normal.
Well, I've heard that before. I try to pass as normal, but it just seeps out.
Yeah, we would be doing energetic activations with the group, and Justin would come join the group, and all of a sudden the energy just went to a totally different place and was so much more powerful and expansive. And of course, I'm talking about uh, leading spiritual tours to Southwest France, as many of you know if you've been on or listened to Becoming Quantum Conscious. That's part of what I do, is lead tours. And this is the land of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, or Jesus. Um, and so having Justin on this tour was always a unique experience in itself. And I had bunches of questions to ask you, but of course, being a tour guide, I didn't get to ask you about this uh, because you have a very unique viewpoint about the life of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, James the Just, and all of these people. And of course, you describe this in your book, uh, Time to Speak. I'll put it up once more. Time to Speak right here. And you can buy this at wellspring.org on Amazon. And it's by Justin James. But it gives a very different perspective about what happened, and more what I was loving was a more in-depth perspective about what it's like to be a light being, what it's like to have light in your body. And so I'm just kind of doing a precursor here of what this interview is going to be about. So I want to start with something simple. Why was James the Just called James the Just?
So, Bart, let me just correct you for a moment. On the website is deepspring.org.
All right, and I'm going to make sure that I have that on my. I use Wellspring as a. I have it here. I'm gonna put it on the ticker. Wellspring is a term I use as a shaman to talk about the deepness within some people who have a gift between their hips of having an enormous second chakra energy that kind of flourishes everything they do and everybody around them. Very powerful. So a wellspring is that. That's where I get caught up. This is Deep Spring.
Yeah, deepspring.org. And then, of course, Amazon.
Yes, and it's well worth just checking this book out and enjoying it. And it's very much a strictly channeled book. You bring in a lot of beings, and it's basically dictated that away, where somebody is interviewing you, and then they basically type the book out. So
exactly.
It's
yeah,
very.
I wanted to remain true to the message. So I was in regressive hypnosis, and during that regressive hypnosis, we actually channeling various people came in. Yeshua, Magdalene, Joseph, Peter, variety of people decided to just step in. It was pretty interesting.
Yes, it is, and I guess they're all in some of the same realms at the same time, because My guess is if you're a being like Yeshua, you're at many places at once.
Yeah, so I can comment a little bit on how that works. So the higher polarized beings, their essence can be in multi-dimensional. And when we were doing the work on the book, we made an invitation to those who wanted to contribute, heard. And so even if they weren't in the same dimension, time by time, which we would say day to day, have days, they were allowed to come. And we create sacred space during that regression, just like it's sacred space today.
Yes, and so as you would open that portal or gateway for the beings to come in, when you say sacred space, you would do some sort of a ritual or enactment to create kind of a landing pad for all of these energies to come in.
Yeah, it's a description when you first start out of creating boundary. And I do that with light. And so we create a space of light and say who may and may not be here, only positive polarity. And the same with the interface of the radio and the Zoom and around you, Bart, we've created the same boundary.
That's great. And I think that's good for everybody to hear when you are starting to create your sacred space, that you create those types of invitations and you embody being that person of light, almost like a conduit for it all to come in. And going back to my question, why was James the Just called James the Just?
So, name derivation. Jacob is Aramaic, and then you have Jacob from that, and then James from that. And so Jacob was referred to as James. And after Jesus was crucified, he passed down the torch, so to say, to James. And so he was leading the apostles and disciples and fielding questions and being that leadership role in Jerusalem. And because of a very simplistic life that he tried to just do everything the best way possible as that model. It's a very kind and quiet man. They came to call him James the Righteous One, or James the Just.
It sounded like he just kind of held a lot of things together for people, was that silent leader. And probably the apostles needed guidance at that time. They lost Jesus. They probably didn't. They were in shock, probably for a long time.
They were, and we all went into like a retreat where we just were together, some grieving and realizing, deciding how to go forward. And so eventually they would go out to different countries to do their teaching. Sometimes questions would come back to me, and I would messages, or they would send messages, conversations, and just knowing that there was a support group, could be very helpful for the teachers that are out.
Yeah, yeah. And this was a group, the apostles, when we think of the apostles, they came from all walks of life, in different educations. Some were more, what would you say, intuitive. Others were more logical. It was a kind of a very interesting team of diversity. And do you have any reflections about why that was picked that way?
I think it makes a lot of sense that you're going to go into different communities that are diverse to have somebody that's similar to them,
Mm-hmm.
and you may be more likely to listen and receive the concepts more easily. So the diversity was partly for that reason. We knew that the message would be imperfect because the teachings that Yeshua and I grew up with, clean community, and then went on to learn from all the other cultures that we visited. We would not expect people that were born and raised in that small area of the same breadth of understanding.
Yeah.
So when we learn, you think about our learning curve. You have a foundation, and you build upon that foundation. You have a certain perspective or window that you look at life through, and you try to fit new information in to that perspective of that foundation and grow upon it. If information doesn't fit with your previous foundation perspective, it can be really difficult to understand. But we did our best to help everyone understand the concept.
Maybe that's the beauty of the diversity. So many people seeing it a little bit differently. And maybe it could be understood better that way.
Or at least started to be. We see some changes, message down, especially down. But the essence is still one really looks.
Yeah.
Yeshua had said, if you have ears to hear, eyes to see, the true seeker learn. And those are all very valid concepts. How well do we really listen? Do we hear or do we just listen? And how well do we really see? Are we looking beyond just what is the surface?
It sounds like he's trying to say you have to listen with your heart.
That's a very good understanding, Bart.
And that's something, another one of the kind of a book that's kind of a cousin to this concept of time to speak. Your book, Justin, is, of course, Anna Grandmother, Jesus in the Magdalene Prophecies, the Voice of the Magdalens, that's it, by Claire Hartsong. And she always stressed about that was one of the basic principles that the Magdalens were learning was always listen with your heart. And the truth will come out. I wanted to ask you, there's so many good things in your book, and I just wrote questions as I read the book. So whatever we're covering here today, you're going to get more information through the book itself. But the virgin birth being a conception of light, um, and could you describe how that all worked out, or give us some insight about what happened?
Light conception wasn't only with Mary begetting Yeshua. That was a process that was practiced prior to Yeshua. Anna, his mother, it's Mary. She is called Mary Ann. But Mary was conceived that way, and so were several of her siblings. And there were other cousins and such that were conceived that way. And there were other beings across the world that have been conceived that way.
Wow.
One raises their vibration to a level where we can bring in the essence of life and bring in a highly polarized sentient spirit as well. It's making a gateway for that sentient spirit.
So it's almost like if you can embody the light yourself, and then be an invitation for more spirit or more of a higher consciousness from other sources to come in, you can change. Well, it's conceived a lot of higher light beings. It changes the DNA. Is that what you're saying?
It does affect the DNA. And even the work we do now, you raise your vibration. If you're consistently at a higher polarization, your chakras can stabilize and be at that higher DNA.
And that's still available for us to do today.
It is.
And it's also not about just having children. You can be a light being and just have a really great life.
Yeah, light being, you may want to conceive that way. But that's not the entire reason. I mean, we're here because we want to help all of creation raise their own vibration. And we do that in many ways. As you said, when you feel my energy in the room, it irradiates, and we can share it with people, we can share it with plants and animals, the earth. And humans do that as well. If you're, whatever energy that you have, you share with those around. I call it the ripple effect. And if you're sharing negative energy, we're going to feel that. If you're sharing positive energy, you're going to feel that. And you can purposely share energy. Especially, I like to encourage people to share positive energy, gratitude with the earth. We have a lot of teachings that take energy from her, but she needs good energy and gratitude for her healing, nurturing, and continuing to support everybody here.
Yes, and that's part of our purpose, in my opinion, is that we learn to be a light being that is a steward energetically for the earth. And of course, we need to do a lot of other good things to help the planet. But it's such a big picture, isn't it? The earth, bringing in more enlightened beings, enlightening other people through your light. Uh, this is what Yeshua's and Yaakov's beings in purpose was about.
Yes.
Practicing.
And it wasn't
that.
just ours. And that's part of what the intent was, to show that it wasn't just Yaakov and the disciples. There was a whole community developed even before Yeshua came to support his work that he was going to be doing, and to do their own work. So it's a universal group effort.
Indeed. I like to be on that team. In fact, I think I'm on that team. There's a lot of different expressions of it, but it really comes down to the essence of, can you learn how to have light inside of your body? And speaking with your heart, but also your whole being. That's the advanced work.
You got it, Bart. Yep, you're part of the team. Anybody can be part of the
team.
We are always looking for everybody to join party team.
Exactly. Of all of what that is. And you help lots of people with workshops and groups, and also with your book. And so Justin is out and about there. And so if you go to deepspring.org, you can learn more about his work. And just to talk about the work of this radio show, you are on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network, coming out of New Orleans, Louisiana, 107.7 and 105.3. And we're also on Roku, YouTube, Facebook. And my name is Bart Sharp, and this is Becoming Quantum Conscious. And we have Justin James here today, author of Time to Speak. And he is connected with this, who Jesus was and who Jesus is. He was there, has lots of memories of this. And I just wanted to ask you another question. I'm going to read this out of my paper. Jesus was powered by the Creator, but did not mean he was destined to be who he turned out to be, a Messiah type. He was still required to learn higher level mysteries. In other words, just because he had all of this innate talent brought to him through light, he still had to do a lot of work to get there. And just was wondering, what were some of the things Jesus and Yaakov or James the Just did to develop themselves?
So I need to explain that, we have knowledge when we're not in this realm, when we are in spirit. And then we come to this realm, and we're in a human body. We have to learn how the human body works. We have to interact with other humans on this planet. And so our hypotheses and intellect are challenged by the real world. So one of the things he had to learn was how to learn these skills and use them with the human body. And so the early lessons in the Essene community was learning about the practices of love, unconditional love, interacting with each other, and then learning how to harness that divine light and use it for healing, and use it for communication, using it on a day-to-day. Then he went on to other cultures, such as the Druids, who had also been taught that the righteous one coming didn't come to their community, but he knew they were coming. They were in support of this mission as well. And they have different skill sets that work more with the natural world. And so he was able to go up and work with the Druids and more about the natural world, with their abundance of planets. That the desert just doesn't have. And then went on to India, and then up to Tibet, where we have different disciplines. And he was able to learn about their cultures, how the people live, how they think, and for adepts, he was able to work with them. And all this was to give them a bigger platform from which to work well with people and maximize the skill level as he's going forward to teach.
Wow. So many different cultures. And you know, it's one of the things you say in your book. It's not about being the Messiah. It's about being the messenger, which takes it to a more impersonal level, but more of something of a sign of the times, something that was supposed to change. And he just carried the message. It wasn't about an ego.
Right. He had many human incarnations prior to that life. And those experiences, along with his evolution of light and love, put him in a unique situation where he could come down, be able to manifest this in a way that was unique. I mean, you have to think about how difficult it is to be amongst people who don't want to hear you, often are violent. And that was just the way of the world at the time. An eye for an eye, and I'll take what I want, whether it's by violence or enslavement or wealth. And he came to show there was a different way. He was trying to break that way of life.
Yeah. And it's interesting that he did it at the time when the Romans were there. And astrologically speaking, we are entering into a new era, which, if you encapsulate that era from the time of Christ to 2012, I like to think of it as man-made laws. It's a very masculine era. And here was somebody very feminine that said, speak from your heart. Women are equals. They're very valuable, which they weren't at that time. Sounds like a really hard task to accomplish.
The message still lives on. It's been altered in many ways, but the essence of it is there.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when we talk about the truth, because that's what Jesus would say as a messenger, I'm just delivering the truth. And so when we take that down to the essence of that message of the truth, what would that be?
It's pretty simple. Love for one another, compassion, forgiveness, kindness. We can change our behavior through all these concepts. We don't have to keep making poor choices. The Christian message now and the message from other religions is often you need to do good deeds now so you can go to this other realm called heaven and be happy. Well, our message is really create that space here. Treat each other well with love and kindness and create that heaven here. That's what Earth was created for. You have an abundance of beautiful life. That's all in an ecosystem that works if we aren't messing with it. And that's what the message is. That's what the intent is to create that heaven here.
Indeed. It is a simple message. And can we really receive that we can be that happy inside of ourselves? It seems like we've kind of wound ourselves up to where we're kind of implanted in a lot of misery. But I think Jesus said it's all inside of you. It's all inside of you.
And we're creating the misery.
We are. And that's a big lesson in getting over that misery. And I love being around you before, Justin, of just that deep sense of peace and calm. You are one of the most humble leaders I've ever met. And that you are not even trying to be a leader. You just step up and speak when it's your time to speak, and then you step back down and go, and take your place around the crowd. And I wonder if Jesus was a little bit like that. Just, it wasn't about him. It was about the message.
It wasn't about him. He was more charismatic than I am. He'd go out there and talk to the crowds. And he was quite the orator. And I'm more behind the scenes guy. And so at that time, I'm important to help make sure everything worked. How to get from point A to B, get food, get shelter, make sure he was okay. And in this life, I'm thankful and honored that you described me in such a way, Bart, because that is part of my goal is to be a model. I'm not perfect in human form, but do my best. And when people are ready to hear and listen, they have questions, more than glad to talk with them. And we have a saying, it's like, if it doesn't resonate with you now, put it on a shelf. Maybe it will later. And what I have found is as we are learning and growing, that a message you heard 5, 10, 20 years ago may not have made sense then, but it will make sense later.
Yes. and putting it on the shelf to where maybe it'll show up when you're ready to have it. As a speaker or a messenger, um, if you allow your own ego to come in, that must be very distressing. But to give people allowance to have their own pace in learning concepts, that's very powerful. It gives people respect, and that was always amazing with Jesus with the Romans. He respected them. He allowed them to be who they wanted to be or who they were, and loved them in such a profound way.
That's part of the compassion we talk about. Having compassion for the individual where they're at. We're each on our own journey, and we're going to get there when we get there. It may not be this life, maybe another lifetime. But to have compassion for the individual where they're at right now.
Yes, it's so powerful. You take out control, you take out ego, you take out aggression, you take out judgment when you're in that place, which seemed not to be a thing that Jesus had much of. So, your relationship with Jesus was just very practical, but also you must have had a lot of love between the two of you. Did you almost like you must have felt bigger when you were around him? Does that make sense?
Let me sort of look at that. But before we do that, I want to put a plug in for 47 Stories of Jesus. You can get on Amazon. And these are channeled stories of an individual that was alive at the time, and a friend of his often traveled with us. And it gives a very good perspective of how Jesus works day to day. You know, you come in contact with the thief, come in contact with the leper, come in contact with various people. And what I like to do when I read that is not only remember, but think about how did he, during that particular time, that particular person, and how can I do the same with people that I interact with in the world now?
That's a good way to look at it. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah.
The title of this book again was 47 Stories of Jesus.
Right.
Okay, so we can find that on Amazon, just like you can find Justin James' book, Time to Speak, on Amazon, as well as deepspring.org. And it's a great book to check out. I read it in about 5 hours, maybe, probably less than that. But it just, I'm always looking at, how you can look at things more energetically, and how energy works, how cells absorb light. And I just got some really dynamic insights on how all of that works. And just well worth your time to check this book out. I wanted to ask you another question. Because there's a lot of people, being that I do Southwest France tours, we always talk a lot about Mary Magdalene. And can you tell us about where she came from and, a bit about her?
Mary Magdalene. So there's so many Marys. Try to get them straight. I see her as Sister Mary. And she was part of the Hispanic community, and she was raised in what you call the mysteries, and knew Yeshua. And eventually became his partner. And the Christian rendition that she was a prostitute and had these demons, and that was just not so. She did learn about the Isis tradition, which was common amongst the Magdalene order for young people in that order to study Egypt. And many people outside of that practice would refer to the women as prostitutes. And that just wasn't so. So she was part of the community, raised in those ways, and supported Yeshua in his work.
Thank you. Just a curious question, because I mean, I'm able to commune with Mother Mary quite easily, channel Jesus quite easily. And they seem to have their domains that you can access them. Whereas Mary Magdalene, she just seems to come from a very different place than them. Almost like she's still part of being human. Maybe that she reincarnates. And I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts about that.
I'm not going to speak to Mary and what she's doing. What can I say? So she was not light conceived. So she's a little different energy level than Mother Mary or Yeshua, who were light conceived. But that doesn't denigrate Sister at all. She's a beautiful being who truly understood the message and supported Yeshua and strong, beautiful, and then took that message. After the crucifixion, sacred family was at high risk, and they had to leave. They had previous friends and colleagues in France and Europe with the Druids prior to the second. Having to leave, some of the members had already gone to do teachings. And so when they had to leave Jerusalem, that's where they went. And Mary Magdalene continued to do the teaching and live the life of this message. And this was one of the things that she and Yeshua and I addressed when I went to France to do your tour, Bart. James did not go to France or Europe after the crucifixion because he felt it was really important to stay in Jerusalem and be that teacher and that leader that Yeshua. Sister Mary had asked James to follow and be a part of her life there in France. And James chose. And so that first afternoon, remember, they arrived in that pasture outside of Mount Bugarash.
Bugarash, Peak to Bugarash.
Yeshua and Mary were there to meet me and welcome me to the land I was finally.
Yes. That spot does have a very strong um, a scene, Magdalene, and according to Claire Hartsong, they lived in that area, and to me, that is the place where they stayed in those fields. It just feels that way. That's always the vision I get.
Yeah, it was very strong.
Yeah,
Great energy.
Indeed. With that, um, yeah, she just seems to be a very important persona for this age, almost as if she is an every woman. In other words, she just seems to be more practical for people to connect to, almost like Mother Mary or Isis or Kuan Yin, are a little bit beyond us. They're not as available, but a lot of people feel this affinity for Mary Magdalene because she just seems to be more practical. It's that's just been my experience with her, and what I hear from other people. Uh, just grounded in our souls. There's so many good things about this book, and we're running. We have about 3 minutes left. So, Justin, is there any message you would like to give to people? Sagely advice to people.
Sagely advice. When people have read the book, they say they're infused with the love and understanding, their heart opening. Some people choose to read the book just a chapter at a time and then meditate around it. Other people read the whole book and then go back to different parts, think about and learn about more. And I just encourage people to read and really open up to the message and the energy, ask questions, and start a new book.
That's a good thing. I think we always have to reinvent ourselves, almost like be open to reinvent ourselves every day. It's the best way that we can be open to change, which is something Yeshua was encouraging all of us to do, is to always change.
We'll bring in that unconditional love, share that. And if that requires you to change, so be it. If you don't need to change and you can share that unconditional love, that's beautiful.
It is.
You know, Bart, you have a lot of strong energy, there's unconditional love. I don't know that you need a whole lot of changing.
Yes. And that's what becoming quantum conscious is about, is opening people to new ideas so that they may learn to get in touch, as you said earlier, to the light within them. And that light not only is a huge wellspring of consciousness, but it's connected to many things out there in the universe and other realities, other dimensions, as you well know, because you travel about amongst those places. It's all
I like
about
your concept of joining the team. Right? I'm going to use that.
Indeed. And join the team.
I'm inviting everybody to join the team.
Yes. Find your own version of how you practice having light within yourself. Wow. Well, Justin, I really appreciate you being on the show of Becoming Quantum Conscious at United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Network on Roku, Facebook, and YouTube. It's been a joy. Time to Speak is Justin's James' latest book, and it's just an amazing book. Thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your time with us.
It was my honor, Bart. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope we're getting the message out a little bit more.
Indeed. Be the messenger, speak the truth, know your heart. Many blessings, everybody. And we'll see you next week as we will have Perdita Finn, author of Way of the Rose. And until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.